my friends, David Paulides, Canadian Missing Project. That is the executive producer of the show, Huck, and she is very excited today. Been running around like a crazy girl, feeling healthy, having fun. She's happy. And she's in here with the underlings, me, bossing me around, telling me what to do. But she is the executive producer and the owner of Huck TV. So, we got a lengthy one for you today. And we're going to get right into it. Many of you know that I've been all over Nova Scotia's case about the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Two little kids disappeared in May. And I want to give you a little background on some things, just so you know police's responsibility when it comes to small kids. What you're trained at the police academy is when you go into a home and it deals with a welfare check on the kids, you really don't give a rat's butt about what the parents think. You are the sole and only advocate for those kids that are in that home. And you have to be worried about one thing: their ability to thrive in that home. And if they can't, they come out. As an example, if there's no food in the home, no question, they're out. No, sorry. No food, no kids. Now, your idea of cleanliness and my idea of cleanliness may be two different things. In general, if the common person went in the home and thought it was too filthy for the kids to be around, they come out. And as an example, I've been in a home before where there was dog excrement and cat excrement everywhere. People had stepped in it. It was all over the floor, all over the house. Kids out. There's no way I'm leaving them there. No, sorry. No, they're coming out. If there's dirty plates, dirty dishes, bugs crawling all over the counter, out. And I never had a guilty conscience about doing those things. Why? Because I was always afraid that if I erred on the side of the parents, that something would happen to those kids. And I'd come back a couple days later and I'd find a body there, and I couldn't live with that. So if I wanted to get yelled at by social services about why I took those kids out, let it be. I got big shoulders. I can take care of it. But you know what? In a 20-year career, I never got yelled at. I never got counseled. I got thanked a lot. There were times, and I can think of two, where I went into a home the day after social services were there, and I took the kids out and social services did squat. I actually called a supervisor in, my supervisor, because I wanted him to be a witness that social services hadn't done a damn thing. And together, he and I made a big stink about this to the county, saying that they weren't doing their job and that social services worker should be fired. I never know if they were fired or not, but they weren't doing their job. Now, sometimes when you're getting these predicaments where you get called to a home, trust me, this is all coming back to what we're talking about tonight. I'm just prepping you with the mindset you're supposed to be having as a police officer. Sometimes when I went into these homes, you would call for social services, their on-call rep, to get to the house. I always worked nights, either 3 at night, 3 in the afternoon to 1 in the morning, or 5 at night till 3 in the morning. Social services, their main office was always closed, so you had to wait for a standby person to get there. Never had a problem with them. Because when I ordered the kids out, they had to take the kids. It wasn't, we don't want to. No, you're going to. That's it. Now, they could take those kids and put them in a foster home for one night and put them back the next day, but I never heard that happen. So as the first line of defense for kids, police officers have to be thinking about them, number one. So now that you got that, let's get into this story. This is a major update on Lilly and Jack. I did a lengthy story about them after they disappeared. Here's the update. I read probably 25 different articles to get to what I'm going to give you today. They went missing May 2nd, 2025. They lived in a small area called Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. They lived about 150 kilometers from Halifax. And they lived with their stepfather, Daniel Martel, and their mother, Malaya Murray. Martel was 34, Malaya was 27. And also on the property was the step-grandmother, which would be Daniel's mother, lived on the property there. They lived in a house trailer. She lived in a kind of house trailer kind of thing in another part of the property. Now, Malaya was a First Nations member and had a small baby named Meadow. So inside their living arrangement, there was a large wooden stove, kids' artwork around the kitchen, a sliding door to the side yard, where the kids played next to a chicken coop. Now, the kids regularly played right on the perimeter of the woods around their home. Every day. With clockwork, every day. Now, there was a 2-lane road in front of their home that was paved. This is a pretty remote location. They had neighbors, but not many. The kids attended a school called Salt Springs Elementary. And every day they'd get their backpacks on and they'd walk out to the roadway and they'd wait for the school bus to drive up, pick them up, and take them on a 20-minute ride to school. And it was stated that they went most days. Now, the day of the disappearance, at 6:15 in the morning, Malaya, the mom, marked her kids as absent from school, and she stated because Lilly had a cough. Remember, there's the reason. Lilly had a cough. Now, when they said they marked him absent, I'm going to guess that she logged into a computer and did it that way. Now, the morning of the disappearance, the parents said that they heard Lilly and Jack playing in the next room over from where they were laying in a room with their infant child, and that they dozed off accidentally and went back to sleep. At about 9:45 in the morning, they said that they woke up and they couldn't hear the kids anymore. They both got up, searched their trailer, searched the grounds, couldn't find the kids. Now, Cody Sullivan has been separated from Lilly and Jack and Malaya for 3 years. And Belinda Gray is Cody's mom. Now, after this disappearance happened, she did respond and search for the kids. Now, Daniel, at the time of the disappearance, was employed at a local hardwood mill. But after the disappearance, he went on stress disability. Now, he had had his hours shortened at the mill because of there wasn't as much logging going on in the area for a variety of reasons. Now, Daniel went out and started to search around for the kids the morning they disappeared. Lilly's pink rubber boots and a white backpack were gone, never found. He drives around, searches the dirt roads, things, nothing. At 10 a.m., Malaya, the mom, calls 911. Daniel gets back into her car and starts searching the dirt roads and the culverts. Not long after that, the RCMP arrive, and not long after that, they called for search and rescue, and they started arriving. They didn't wait long, which was smart. With kids, you got to get right on it right away. Let's stop here for a second. Having done a variety of trips into areas where people have gone missing, having done 3 movies regarding missing 411 where kids disappear, and interviewed the sheriffs of these different jurisdictions, there's quite a variety of theories about when kids go missing and how you handle it. I interviewed a sheriff that covered a Crater Lake disappearance in one of my movies. And he said, Dave, right from the beginning with kids, you throw every resource you've got at it. First, the dogs go in, try to pick up a scent, and then right on the heels of those dogs is everyone you can imagine. If you got 500 people, you throw them in there. And he was a little pissed at the Park Service because they weren't throwing a lot of resources at it. And he said, it's their jurisdiction. I can only make recommendations. But he was mad. So different theories by different jurisdictions. But the sheriff said that when you have young kids, they don't have the ability to rebound from cold temps, bad weather, like adults do. That's why you got to get on it quickly. Well, search and rescue people start arriving soon after. And that very first day, they put up drones, helicopters, ground pounders, canines. Everyone you can imagine is looking for these kids. The first day. Now, Daniel's mom, Janie, lives in a camper on the property that was searched. And they searched her camper. And they searched the family's trailer. Inch by inch. Multiple times. 11:30 that morning, Malaya texts her paternal grandmother stating, quote, I never thought they'd run off on me like that. I'm so distraught. 11:30 in the morning. RCMP have only been there an hour and a half. I never thought they'd run off on me like that. I'm so distraught. About 3 p.m., middle of the afternoon, she texts again, quote, many are suspecting that they were picked up by somebody because there's no trace of them and Lily's backpack is gone. Daniel was continuing to search the creek's force in the back. And he was racing around like a madman. I mean, searching hard, like a dad should. A short distance from the house, searchers were brought to a location where there's a blanket, pink blanket, tied around a branch of a tree. And Malaya said it belonged to Lilly. It was torn and wound around this branch. It was about 1 kilometer from the home on a dirt road going into the woods. Strange location, too far from the home for it to be there normally. A police officer that day asked Daniel about the blanket, and he said it wasn't Lily's. Keep that in mind. Officers continued to spread the search out, going to local homes. And one of those homes belonged to Daniel's father, a man named Earl Martell. He was a retired plant worker, lived atop a hill in a home he built 40 years ago. Earl graciously allowed people to come in to search garages, trailers, old cars. Daniel's old car was a junker there. Everything. And searchers kept going night and day. Stop here for a second. Already, by the time I was doing this secondary research, I was stunned. So Daniel's mom lived on the property where he and Malaya lived. And then a short distance away, his dad also lived nearby. I didn't know any of this. It was never stated before. Just saying. Now, Belinda was Earl's ex-wife, current wife. It's a little vague there. So she stated that after she heard the kids were missing, she responded down there to help the search. She also said that she'd never been invited into Daniel and Malaya's house. But after the search started and she went down, she finally did get invited in. And she said it was a cluttered kitchen, junk-strewn yard, and it was just the opposite of neat and tidy of the woman she knew when Daniel first dated her. I'm not sure what that tells you, but that was just from one of the moms. Now, it rained several days right at the beginning of this search. Kind of hits me as a 411, right? Woods in the backyard, no scent trail, dogs aren't picking up anything, rains right away. Now, both Daniel and Malaya pleaded with the police to issue an Amber Alert early on because they believed that the kids were abducted. Not sure why. Police said that there was no evidence of abduction. Malaya said that the kids were very friendly to strangers. And the Nova Scotia police explained to the media and to the parents that they needed specific criteria to issue an Amber Alert, and they didn't have it. I understand that, and I get that. And if everything they're saying is true, they didn't have enough to issue an Amber Alert. Now, Daniel said something that I'd never heard before either. He said that both kids are undiagnosed autistic. Wow, that's pretty huge. He said as long as you offer them food and water, or you say, I'm taking you to your mom and dad, they'll go with you. One of the primary duties of being a parent is teaching your kids right and wrong and how to protect themselves. Remember the old one, you don't talk to strangers? Apparently his kids do. What about the old saying, you don't take anything from a stranger? Apparently they didn't learn that lesson. Now I'm amazed that the police never said that they were undiagnosed autistics. I think that would be important. Just saying. So early in the search one afternoon, this is important. This is a big one. Early in the search, there was a discussion about meth use in Malaya and Daniel's home. This was done right at the doorway to their home. One of Malaya's relatives made an accusation saying that Daniel must have something to do with the kid's disappearance. Daniel's mother, Janie, remember, lived on the property, owns the property, ordered Malaya's family off the property. I could see how this could be some trouble. And meth use. That's the first time I'm hearing this. So just down the road was a search and rescue headquarters, and Daniel and Malaya were there. The way the story evolved is that searchers were pointing to the maps where they had been searching in front of Daniel and Malaya. About that time, Malaya says she's not feeling well and walked out with her baby Meadow on her hip, and she was sobbing. And her mom, Cindy, was next to her. Think about this really rationally. You're giving the parents a briefing about what you're doing. You're saying, this is the area we searched. We're not finding anything. But we still have all this area to search, and we're going to do it. We're going to keep going. About this time, Malaya breaks down and walks outside with her mom on her heels. So Daniel walks outside, and it's Malaya, her mom Cindy, and Daniel. And Daniel says, hey, can I talk to Malaya alone? Cindy steps in front of Daniel and blocked him from contacting her. Daniel yells, Cindy, get the F out of here. So you have two things going on. You have the thing at the residence where they're talking about meth use and accusations. You have something over here going on at the search and rescue, and it's kind of going on at the same time, best I could tell. Malaya picked up her stuff with her mom, left, and never came back to that residence. Belinda stated, listen carefully. Belinda, Earl Martell's wife, Daniel's mom, if she could, quoting, if she could leave, then it meant she knew her kids weren't coming back. Wow. If you guys are with me, back when I originally told you this event, I said, I've never heard of a mother leaving the home where the child disappeared from during the search. I never heard that, ever. I don't care how much abuse I'm taking. I'm not leaving. You can leave. I'm not leaving. Because my kids, if there's a chance they're coming back, I'm staying. But that's just me. The Mounties made a press statement at about this time that they confirmed that the night before the kids disappeared, on May 1st, that night, they confirmed that the kids were seen by several members of the public in their yard, alive. It's important. Last time they were confirmed to be alive. Kids disappeared May 2nd. 6 days later, May 8th. RCMP received a tip from a neighbor. The night, really the morning, early morning before the disappearance, sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., that the neighbor heard a vehicle coming and going from their residence throughout the night. The neighbor said he was working on his car in his yard between midnight and 5 a.m. and said a loud car went back and forth 6 times. He said, after the kid's disappearance, I thought about it and I said, I better report this. 6 days after the search started, the RCMP pulled back and reduced their searching. Stop for a second. The night before the disappearance, a car goes back and forth between midnight and 5 a.m. So I remember when I was a young dad and we had young kids, the most important thing to me is to get good sleep so I could be a good parent the next morning. Who is getting up for 5 hours of primetime sleep to meet somebody coming to and from their residence hours before the kids are reported missing? I don't think that's a little development. I think that's a big banana development. Now, if I was the RCMP, I would be getting search warrants for the phones of Malaya and Daniel. And I would be going to their cell phone carrier and getting every text message and every phone, everything that they've made in the previous week. And it only gets worse, folks. Well, in the following weeks, the police returned twice to search a pipeline area behind the house and a clear-cut trail. They also came back and they drained the home's septic tank. They inspected 4 mine shafts in the area, and they said that they'll continue to come back and do more mine shafts. And Nova Scotia issued a $150,000 reward, with the detectives saying that this case is highly unusual. Duh. Yeah. The Mounties stated that they've completed 10 different judicial authorizations. That's what they call them. We call them search warrants, subpoenas, seized records, search warrants, polygraphs, took possession of electronic devices, video files, and they did some forensic tests. This made me feel a lot better. They're at least doing something. Now, they didn't say what they did. They should have seized both phones of both parents. And then found out who they were talking to that was coming to the home the night before. And I would have put my 2 best detectives on that person that was coming to and from the house. And I would have pulled them into the office and had a little conversation about what they were doing there. And then I would have put them on a polygraph. Then I would have checked their criminal history. It's just too coincidental. And then later on, Daniel's confronted with Lilly's blanket. Remember hanging on the tree? And then he changed his mind and he said it was planted there and it was taken from the garbage. Somebody planted it there. Who's that? Malaya? I don't know. Now here comes a really tough part for me. The day the kids vanished, Child Protective Services in Nova Scotia and the town of Glasgow, the closest town, prepared a special memo for the Deputy Minister of Nova Scotia, a guy named Beaton. But the government refused to allow what that memo said. Now, several months before the disappearance, a social worker came to Lily and Jack's home to assess life at their home. Remember what I told you about? How police officers come to the home? Daniel, when questioned, said that this was related to the kids' learning difficulties. Interesting. But when questioned further, he refused to answer. Both kids were developmentally behind other kids the same age at the school. Now here's the part I want you to pay intimate attention. The kids disappeared May 2nd, 2025. September 2024, Jack came to school with a possible black eye, very light, and facial bruising. September 2024. December 2024, Jack came to school with a significant black eye. I'm just saying, I don't remember Ben, when he was young, ever getting a black eye. And he played rough and tumble hockey. Well, he did get a black eye when he was playing in major juniors. And that was in a fight. But when he was 4 or 5 years old, no. Never happened. Does it happen? Oh, I'm sure it does. But 2 black eyes, months apart? Oh, I'd be suspicious. Daniel said that one of them was caused by Lilly, and he didn't respond to other questions. Now here's the one that I nearly fell out of my seat. Daniel, when he was being questioned, said, well, just by chance, the morning that Lilly disappeared, she had a black eye too, caused by a Tonka truck. I sat back in my chair and I said, hold your taters. Remember, social services had come to Lilly and Jack's house because of concerns by the school. Do you think that Daniel and Malaya wanted to send their kids to school with a black eye again and raise the suspicions of the school again? Or would it just be easier to say she had a cough and she didn't come to school? That's 3 black eyes and 2 kids in less than a year. Friends, I'm sorry, that's too many black eyes. Now, it was also said that Malaya and Daniel were under financial constraints. Daniel was getting fewer hours at the mill. Daniel's car was not drivable. And Daniel's father had actually brought food to their house for the family. Malaya had told her friends that Daniel was very controlling and would sometimes hold her down and take her phone. Then she said that Daniel concealed his drug addiction the first year that they lived together. How can you live with somebody and conceal a drug addiction? I guess you could if somebody was completely innocent and knew nothing, but you couldn't do that around me. And then Daniel later admitted to taking many, many types of different drugs. Daniel said he had nothing to do with the kid's disappearance. And he told the reporters that he had taken a polygraph test and passed. Now, there was never any mention by the RCMP, parents, nobody, if he passed the polygraph. Relatives of Lilly and Jack had stated that the kids had never wandered into those woods before. And because of that, they don't believe that they wandered into those woods that morning. And they believed that somebody abducted them. One thing, early in this event, I said that the RCMP should have closed that road in front of their house in both directions and questioned everybody coming up and down that road. Everyone. Do you remember that? Now maybe it makes a little more sense because somebody was coming to and from that house in the middle of the morning. Well, maybe somebody knew who that car belonged to. See why I made that recommendation? Friends, I want you to understand something. The system is set up to save kids. If you're a parent and the school sends out a social worker to check on your child, you should feel blessed that the system is working to protect kids. You shouldn't be offended. Teachers, if you're a teacher out there, and you have the slightest concern that a child is being abused at their home, oh yeah, you call Child Protective Services. By law, you're supposed to. Because you will never be able to live adequately with the nightmare if you find out that child died because of child abuse. The system has to work for the children to thrive. Think about this. In this instance, the parents, the friends, the school, the social workers, everybody failed these kids. Everybody failed. As an example, when I was married, we had young kids. I worked 5 at night till 3 in the morning. I usually slept, from the time I got home at 4 in the morning till sometimes noon. As the kids got older, I could trust them to be in the house watching TV. We actually had an alarm put in the house. So if the kids opened a door, alarm would go off. There's no way I could sleep through it. It never happened because the kids knew. But it was one of those small things that we did to make sure that we were good parents. We wouldn't miss anything. You gotta want to be a good parent. Electronics. Daniel and Malaya's cell phone. In my humble opinion, the key piece of evidence here. I want to see all the pictures on that phone. I want to see who they've been texting, who they've been phoning, who's been leaving them voicemails. And then I want to track that phone, see where it's been all around Nova Scotia. This takes a lot of work, folks. A lot of work. But you're talking about 2 kids' lives. Not 1, 2. The night before the disappearance, who came by that house? I think that that's one of the biggest leads they have on this case. Now, they have stated many times that there's no evidence of abduction. You're going to think this is a stupid comment. There's no evidence there wasn't an abduction. And then what are the results of the polygraph? Just specific questions. Ask Daniel. In the pre-polygraph interview, who was the person that came by that house 5 times in the middle of the night? Give him the name. Why was he coming by? Give him the reason. Then in the polygraph, did you see so-and-so, John Doe, if that was the person that came by the night before? Did you see John Doe last night? Yes or no? Was John Doe there to drop off furniture? Yes or no? Does John Doe know what happened to Lilly? Does he know what happened to Jack? If the polygraph starts going crazy, you know the questions that they're being evasive on and not telling the truth. Were the kids abused? How did Lilly get a black eye the day before she disappears? If it was caused by one of the parents who got angry, did they get so angry that they caused her some type of injury that may have hurt her seriously? You've got to ask yourself those questions. With what's come out just in the last week on this case, I'm amazed that the RCMP hasn't made an arrest. Truly, I'm amazed. With what they should have gotten off those phones, the case should be closed. Now, when you get a police officer coming out of the police academy and you send him out to interview somebody about child abduction or murder, the person they're interviewing is going to walk all over them because they don't know how to interview somebody who's guilty of a serious crime. The interviewer doesn't know the mannerisms, the eye movement, the hand movement that may indicate guilt or innocence. So if you're somebody from the RCMP in Nova Scotia who hasn't really done a lot of serious cases, I have great doubt that they conducted adequate interviews on this case. And what really worries me, seriously worries me, is that we may never know what happened to Lilly and Jack. Friends, I thank you for being here. I'm going to continue to be on this case all the time. I'm always looking for big leads on it. And like I've stated before, I don't know what happened. There are enough flashing yellow lights on this to make me highly concerned about all facets of this investigation, about the people involved, and about the RCMP. Thanks for being here. You are greatly appreciated. Paulides out.